part of the new platform that I'm building, the ethos of that is just like every person with a body deserves to move that body. So maybe that looks like dancing for you. Maybe that looks like doing Pilates. Maybe that looks like running, right? Like the more ways in which we can get out of here and like into here, I think the better for everyone, especially in this moment of, you know, so much grief and loss.
Hey everyone, this is The Reset. This show is about all the ways we can redefine ourselves, do things on our terms, and have the courage to press reset on our lives. I'm your host, Letitia Barriola. Today we're talking about how we can find ourselves again in an industry that typically doesn't represent us, Black people, okay? We're talking about the wellness space. It wasn't built around our needs. It's by and large a historically white space in the US. But luckily, we have people like Sanikiwe Stephanie Delawayo doing the hard but necessary work of redefining the wellness space so that we, me and you, can get our healing and relaxation in peace. Sanikiwe is the founder of Naya Wellness. It's a well-being company that lies at the intersection of social justice and wellness. And oh my gosh, do we need this company in the world today. I want you to listen to our conversation about her wellness journey and what we can all do to press reset and redefine wellness for ourselves. Hello, welcome. So glad you're here on The Reset with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
You know, we were chatting about your journey to wellness, and one thing that I want to know is, you know, as Black women, we've been exposed to a wellness industry and wellness spaces that has not ever represented us, right? So it's like, how do we redefine wellness for ourselves? Where do we begin in that journey?
I think the biggest thing for me personally was looking outside of the status quo, right? If I am looking to a yoga class and all I see is felt white women, I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to go take that or practice that. Like, that's not for me, right? And then at some point, I think I just got past that in the sense of like, if this is something that I want to do, I'm going to show up in the space and I'm going to take up space, right? Not to say that that is easy for everyone, but I do think, you know, we live in a world, especially for Black women, that is not set up for us to be successful or to thrive. And so the more we place the burden on ourselves to not do things because we're not represented or because we don't think we're going to be welcomed, that's going to limit us to so many things, right? And so I think as much as we can kind of get out of that, I think it's for our better.
And it's almost as if when we do go to those spaces that don't represent us and we're the only Black or brown face there, that also has to impact the way that we try to get well, right? When we try to meditate, when we try to stretch in yoga. Have you found that to be true, that it's just not as easy to relax and to get well when you're in an environment that doesn't reflect you?
Oh, absolutely. I remember this one very specific instance of during my training to become a yoga teacher, we had to try out, you know, different styles of yoga. And so I went to this class with a coworker that I didn't know very well, and the entire student makeup of the class was all white. And throughout the class, the teacher just kept like picking out on me and saying just like very absurd comments. Like at one point she was like, "Oh, that smile, like that's how you make it through life." And just, you know, just like little things. And I'm like, this is just so odd. I've never been to this class. You have no idea who I am. Like, why the need to like make commentary on my person? Like it just was very odd, right? And so I think that is definitely maybe not that specific instance, but like things of that, right? Of like feeling like your body might be out of place, right? Like I have bigger boobs and things like that. Like I'm not so skinny, right? But again, I think as much as you can, either bring a friend with you, or now there's so many great like online resources. Again, not enough to where we might feel represented, but at least you can still get the benefits of these practices without having to maybe step into a studio where you feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah. And you do work with companies and businesses that want to be places that are accepting and at least aware of racial bias and discrimination and all those things. And I wonder, so if we flip that around and we think about, Black people in the workplace and all the microaggressions and such that we go through, what have you found been tools similar to the wellness space, but now in the workplace, that we can do to sort of protect our minds and our spirits? Because it's not over, right? If anything, it's just, it's even more complicated post 2020, because now companies are openly talking about it and trying to be in the conversation and represent themselves as, DEI and, pro all these things. But it's like, we know what we feel and we know what we see. So how can we have some real tangible tools to go in, do our work that we enjoy, and get out, unscathed?
I mean,
good luck with that.
I don't know if you go get out unscathed. Like, I'm gonna just keep it 100 with you. Like, I fully left a career that I really loved for that reason. It just was never safe for me to speak. It was never safe for me to, if I had an expression on my face that wasn't a smile, it was always like, what's wrong? What, like just the fear of like me gonna do something. I'm like, nah, y'all, sometimes I'm just not smiling. Like, is that okay? Is that all right? And so within that though, I think the way that in which I coped in a lot of ways was creating Naya and kind of creating the solace for myself. Not to say that everyone has to build a company, right? That's not probable for everyone, but I think that also, how do you again kind of find that community, right? Especially in a work setting. It's like, yo, who are the other Black folks or brown folks nearby you that see maybe how you're being treated, right? Not just to commiserate with them, but like be like, hey, you good? Like, can we go for a walk? Can we, like all of those things. Yes. It's like, again, if you and I will acknowledge that having the ability to leave that job for the betterment of my mental health was absolutely a privilege, right? A privilege that took me a long time to get there, right? Yeah. And I would also offer that not everyone has that luxury or that privilege. And so, especially in those cases, I think it's even more imperative to figure out ways of coping. So community within the workplace, I think, is really great. If you have the ability to, I know a lot of companies are kind of rebuking this idea of remote work, which is so interesting that so many Black folks, especially Black women, felt so much better being able to work from home, right? Like that says a lot in and of itself. And so, again, if you have the ability to stay remote, I think that is an amazing way to kind of bypass some of the nonsense that can happen in an office space. And then I think also, as much as I tout yoga and meditation, those are the things that work for me. I know that those things aren't for everyone. And so I think if you can find, part of the new platform that I'm building, the ethos of that is just like every person with a body deserves to move that body. So maybe that looks like dancing for you. Maybe that looks like doing Pilates. Maybe that looks like running, right? Like the more ways in which we can get out of here and like into here, I think the better for everyone, especially in this moment of, so much grief and loss. Tapping into kind of somatic practices like body practices, dancing, etc., is super helpful.
So good. Listen, I don't know what I would do without, I had similar reasons for leaving my last career. It played a small role, but, in the stressful newsroom, I was a news anchor. And so I was in the middle of I was reporting the trauma that was happening to us on a daily basis. And I don't know what I would have done without the other Black anchors that were in it with me, that we would pull each other, go to the makeup room and check on each other. Just look like just that look from her from across the newsroom knew that I was going to be okay because she's here. So I really appreciate that. And I want to end on this note. So on your website, I had to reread this like 3 or 4 times because it was so beautifully said and articulated. So you said, You are working to redefine this narrative into one that centers on bodies of culture, because we know the beauty and trauma in our experience of living in melanated bodies. So can you share your point of view with us around this beauty and trauma, right? Like we hold beauty and trauma within our bodies, and explain that point of view, and how can we sort of lean in more into the beauty and release the trauma?
Well, I'm gonna just start with, we all know race is a made up construct. And if I am reincarnated, I don't know if that's a thing, but if that were to happen, I would choose nothing more than to be reincarnated again as a Black person. It brings me so much joy. And so when I make that statement, I am speaking to this notion of like, we carry so much. The burden of the world, especially as Black women, falls so heavily on our shoulders. And when I'm with my girls and my people, like, oh, my heart just swells, right? And back to this notion of kind of being in community, I don't think I would have gotten through the past 2.5 years, almost 3 years of this pandemic without being in community with such amazing humans that lift me up and light me up and championing me. Like, when I get off calls with folks who are telling me that Black folks are a niche market and they don't want to invest in my company, right? And then having people on the flip side being like, hey, I see you. I know it's really hard. I know you don't have the resources that you need, but like, keep on going, and I think that that is one thing that I really try to stress in this work. What I want to do rather is like illuminate the totality of humanity, especially for Black folks, because so often people parse out all of the things that happen to us and not looking to all of the other sides, right? And I just think it's really important to stress the joy as much as we stress the other stuff, right? You can't have one without the other.
I appreciate that so much. And even in that statement, you're bringing us fully alive. You're saying we are actual, real, complex humans with all of the things. We're not just beautiful, stars and entertainers and celebrities. And we're not just what you see on the news, right? Every day. We're humans like you. And I'm just so appreciative for your work. And I know that you exist. So that makes my life better. Thank you again for coming on The Reset.
Thank you so much for having me.